Shehryar, customers, competition and culture are always changing. How do we transform our business into this new era?
As you just heard in Imran's presentation, we're going through a huge change at PSO. We are the fastest growing retail network in the country. We open about 70 new stores every year. We want it to be over 100, but that in itself is, the 70 is currently a challenge. We're also completely changing the business model that we're coming out with in terms of building partnerships with some of the world's largest brands in quick service restaurant, with financial institutions, with telecoms. So we're looking to, for want of a better word, be a one-stop shop for a variety of consumer needs, as he comes to our forecourt. Over 3 million consumers coming in every day. That's a huge base to be working with, and they have diverse needs. So, we're trying to do a lot of things at the same time, while ensuring that our core business runs smoothly, and we maintain the country's supply chain of fuels. So it is a challenge. It's a challenge with our dealers as well, because obviously they're used to doing business in a certain way, and getting them to change to a new way of thinking, a new business, is a challenge. But what we've seen briefly in the last few months is that when you start having success, it starts to snowball. And now, when we were having to convince our dealers, now they're coming to us and saying, when are you coming to my outlet? And when are you going to do all of this at our outlets? So they're starting to see results. It's also a challenge for the organization. Despite our size and scale and strength, we're only 1,700 strong. Which is a very small organization as for a company that does $10 billion in revenue. Having the capability, having the systems in place in order to accomplish this it's a lot of strain, again, while running your regular business, but completely transforming major parts of it. I think that the more people come on board and think about that transformation, and think from the consumer's end and what they can offer to the consumer as he walks in the door, whatever your retail format may be or your business may be. I think, in my view, the sort of single experience store will no longer work, and they will die out. Consumers are looking for multiple experiences, for different ways of interacting with the brands. And I think that, the faster we're able to start offering that, the faster we'll be able to succeed.
Thank you. And Shehryar, what about technological advances? Have you incorporated any in the company? How are you driving it forward from a digital point of view?
Well, I think there's a bit of a dichotomy here as far as we are concerned, because on the one hand, from our customers and consumers standpoint, we are a major issuer of fuel cards in the B2B space, with soon launching in the B2C space for our cards. We're looking at doing QR code acceptance at our outlets. However, as Umar also mentioned about the supply chain, the digitalization, or we're very far behind, and we're just only starting to start tracking our supply chain from that standpoint. I think we have a long way to go, because it's a very large infrastructure, and perhaps in 2 or 3 years, we will have a sort of digital track of every sort of liter of fuel that flows through the system.
I think retail is changing, and a lot of people are sharing that experience as well. And they actually look at fellow retailers and how they are actually experiencing, and the things that they actually engage in with their customers. Do you feel that in Pakistan there is a lack of knowledge, or do you feel that you're doing something a little different? What's your thoughts?
If I may just comment, I don't know if this would be an answer or not. I think you make a very good point in that very few companies actually focus on the consumer. If you look at the sort of traditional model of doing things, they will see, okay, here's our expertise, we've got a factory, it's making widgets, so let's find a lot of people who we can sell the widgets to. You know, that's sort of the supply-driven model. And I think we're only just starting to come out of that, because if you look at the general business landscape, there are very few products that are actually developed because there was a consumer demand for them, and there was research, and then there was an understanding of what the consumer wanted. Same thing for experiences, because you know, I mean, right now we're sort of in a fledgling state where you know, and also traditionally experience doesn't really matter much. We're just saying, you know, sell them cheap stuff and that's it. You know, I'll make my money and go home in the evening. So I think we're only just starting to focus on this. The only companies who do this a lot and relatively well are multinational corporations, you know, who have experience from around the world in understanding the consumers and then translating that understanding into sort of their own products and services. But there will have to be a lot of investment. You're saying, what should people do? They should invest in understanding the consumer and his changing needs and the behaviors and what's driving those behaviors and what are the underlying reasons. Not just what he's doing, but why he's doing that. Because if you want to build your brands, if you want to make sure that you know, he keeps going back to you and that he falls in love with your brand, you have to understand him, and he should know that. He should know that, you know, X, Y, Z is me. And that's where we have to get to. It's not an easy road. There are no simple solutions. But I think that until we have that investment in understanding the consumer, we will continue to struggle.
Are you looking at international expansion for your brands going outside Pakistan? And what lessons do you feel that you have learned here to take your brand outside the market?
That's an interesting question, because certainly there are opportunities. We haven't really explored anything yet. The one constraint that we have, obviously, is that we are a public sector organization. So we are owned by the government of Pakistan. However, that doesn't mean that we can't. We have models in front of us. For example, Petronas in Malaysia, very successfully expanded across the globe. They are still a government entity. So I think the opportunity is there, but I think that there is still so much more to do in Pakistan in this sector. The petroleum sector is growing very rapidly. You know, we've been seeing phenomenal growth in the last few years, and this year is no different. It's continuing. So I think that we're at the moment just trying to sort of understand and manage the growth here before we sort of take the next step and move abroad.
Perfect. I would like to thank the panel for your assistance, and I hope that you had some enlightening thoughts to take away from you this afternoon. Thank you.